So this week I had the really unique opportunity to get to watch I'm Still Here at home. Technology is amazing, but I wanted to take a chance to talk about it because I probably won't talk about it much more in depth until my Oscars video, and that is still 2 weeks away, and that just felt very unfair to Miss Fernanda Torres and all the other wonderful people that worked on this film. Let me give you I'm Still Here was a movie that wasn't on my radar until the awards kind of put it on my radar. This film, I did not know is based on a true story, is about 1970s Brazil, where there was a military occupation of the government, and citizens who were speaking out and or in political views that opposed the government very much found themselves in danger. And the film follows Eunice, who's played masterfully by Fernanda Torres, who is a woman whose husband is an architect. She is a mother to 5 children, very involved, very excited, somewhat wealthy family, it seemed like. They definitely weren't nobodies. And eventually her husband is kind of pulled for a military, they say a hearing or a subpoena or something like that. But he doesn't come back. And now there's these men occupying her home. And you really get a sense of what living under a military dictatorship is like in this film. It kind of explores how it impacts the children's life, how it impacts Eunice's life, and unfolds from there, which I don't want to spoil anything, but also this film feels it feels disingenuous to talk about the plot of this film as if it's a spoiler, so I guess just be warned going forward. But the film follows Eunice as she tries to find out what's going on with her husband and eventually why her husband is still missing and why she can't get any proof of life or proof of death from him, why the military is pretending they never interacted with him. And I think it was really interesting to watch a film that's about a specific family that was a real family, but kind of it feels like they're not, you're not going into this going, oh, this is the Eunice paiva film. I think a lot of biopics can kind of feel that way sometimes. You're going to see some actor play this famous person. Obviously, I live in America. I'm not from Brazil, so I don't have the context as it feels like you're just watching this movie, and it feels very much like this could happen to anyone because the film is not presented as it says yes, we're under a military dictatorship, but the opening sequence of the film takes place on a beach. Kids are playing volleyball. One child one of the paiva children is trying to get his parents to adopt a dog. It feels very normal, and I think it's really interesting to watch a film that is very much historical, real life, true story, but isn't I guess I wasn't interested in watching it because I knew it was a true story. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling, but it felt very much like we're going to set out to tell the story of what should have been a completely normal family's life and how this was completely upended by absolute dictatorship and brute force by the military and lacks of freedom and lack of justice being served. Very much placed with Eunice. Eunice doesn't know what Ruebens is up to a lot of the film. We get kind of her overhearing conversations of him, but you're very much placed with her. It's not like you have a cutaway scene of what Ruebens is up to. You really only get to access that as Eunice enters and exits rooms and things like that. And so it felt very grounded as a film. It felt very realistic. And it felt very much realistic. It's a true story, but it felt very realistic in the sense that I'm not trying to understand this from every single side. I'm just trying to understand one woman's experience that unfortunately at this time in Brazilian history sounds to have been somewhat universal for a lot of people. The film it's beautifully shot. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a period piece. So you have great set design and fashion and cars play a somewhat important role in this film, and getting to see everything from that time period without it feeling it's one of those that if you didn't slap the 1970s label on it, you maybe wouldn't realize oh, nobody picked up an iPhone. Nobody searched the internet. You know what I'm saying? That really only becomes apparent as the movie kind of progresses towards the end and we have some time jumps and we kind of see the future of the paiva family. And I think that's the one thing I do have maybe a critique of this film on, is that towards the end, I did sort of feel like we're jumping through time. And I think it was to wrap up the story and to say that hey, getting justice and getting acknowledgement that his death certificate, which is what the film ends of Eunice trying to find this death certificate for her husband, proves that there was wrongdoing, that there was things going on. But the film also kind of leaves off on one of those natural true story, here's where everybody ended up, here's the true facts of what happened to them. And it sort of feels like there's still not justice done. So this film very much functions, I think, in a way to like kind of inform the world that like, hey, this horrible thing happened, and there's still people, families very much so to this day, dealing with the repercussions, the direct repercussions of this military dictatorship on their family. However, I feel like the film kind of jumps, I believe it's like 14 years, and then it's like another 25. And by the end of the film, it's more about Eunice's children than it is about her. Obviously, they're impacted, but they're not the ones this movie is a story of a mother trying to protect her family from something that she kind of has no control over, like no business and or no agency to stop them from she has no way to keep her children outside of the clutches of the government. She has no way to stop her daughter from being questioned. She has no way to like have her other younger children understand that like mom didn't just abandon you with these strange men in her home. She has no control over this situation, and trying to balance that. What do I let my children in on so I'm not lying to them, so that I'm not withholding the truth, but also trying to protect their innocence and trying to protect their happiness and that sort of thing. And kind of this complex relationship of children having to accept and face the disappearance and death of their father without any real certainty in it. It's a very, very complex family drama, if you will, that just, again, everything that I could use genre specifically to describe this film feels like I'm limiting it. But I think Fernanda Torres, obviously, with all of her recognition, is like one of the best parts of this film. Like, I think there's a lot of great things. The writing is really good of this film. The acting of all the children is really great. The production design is really great. But I think Fernanda Torres is very much the shining star of this film, because this movie kind of lives and dies on her character and her performance of this woman facing this insurmountable uncertainty, horrible loss, and trying to fight for justice for her family and plenty of other people in Brazil. And so I think, my only criticism is towards the end, I feel like we time jump a little bit, and that kind of took me out of the story. But I also feel like, obviously, there was no way to like resolve it at the time. And it made sense to kind of catch up with the children and see like this legacy live on of this family that otherwise the government could have tried to destroy. So I think that's a very beautiful like wrapping of the bow of the film. But I think at the end of the day, Fernanda Torres is the best part of this film. And I urge you to watch it to become familiar with her, because she's simply so good. And she exhibits so many ranges of emotions. And I think I really appreciate this film much in the way I appreciated We Live in Time, for the way that it just explores emotions of life. And that's, again, that sounds so cliche, but I think when you watch this movie, you understand that it's just more than that. And there's a beauty to that, like truth telling on screen of like this kind of domestic life, and how politics and government and stuff do interfere with that domesticity, and how they do impact it, whether it's because they've actually made a physical change to your family home or not. So I really liked this movie, and I really hope that you watch it prior to the Oscars. I was just so thankful and so excited that Sony was able to send me a link to watch this movie, because it was showing nowhere around me, and I really wanted to watch all the Best Picture nominees, and this one was going to be by far the hardest one for me to watch. So I am so glad I got to watch it. So major thank you to Sony Pictures Classic for allowing me to watch this movie. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate if you subscribed to the channel, and I will see you guys in my very next video. Bye, y'all.